For the first time, we are seeing over 100 Cybertrucks at Giga, Texas, all at once. It's roughly about 105 Cybertrucks. Can Tesla bears explain to me what all of this vapor is for? I mean, obviously it's quite a bit, and none of these vehicles are supposed to ever be functional. So obviously the Cybertruck production is progressing, but it will be a bit difficult to know the exact data because Tesla has merged Cybertruck deliveries with SNX deliveries. The Cybertruck is in the other category.
Wow, look at that. Thing is a beast. Oh my goodness.
Definitely don't do that, even though the Cybertruck should be okay after doing that because it has the wade mode. In just a moment, we will take a look at the damage caused by the water, or if there is any. Keep in mind, if you are going to do this, you need to give it 10 minutes before the mode is actually fully enabled. And even then, it can only last for 30 minutes and do not go past water that's above 2.5 feet. Otherwise, you might have some major issues. Or maybe not, but Tesla says, do not do that. If you do that, you're going to proceed at your own risk. And this to me definitely seems like more than 3 feet high. In other words, I would expect some issues. They also did this multiple times, although the other times the water was not as high. Looking at the immediate damage, just a few plastic parts had to be put back in. So this part, and then this part too, you just pop it back in, so no real actual damage. And that was the immediate damage, but a few hours later, here's what happened. These buttons to open the bed no longer worked. However, using the phone to open everything was still fine. So it was just the buttons that stopped working, but the close button worked at least for a little while, but then he tried using the close button and it no longer worked anymore. A few hours after going through all of that water, he also said that there were a few water sounds, water moving inside the Cybertrucks in some places, which he said, and I think so too, is probably going to just drain after a few more hours or after a few more days. So I would say, unless you really absolutely have to go through such deep waters, don't do it. Shallow waters and just doing it once is probably no issue at all, but going through deep water multiple times is definitely a no-no unless you want your buttons to stop working. No other issues have been found though, other than the ones I just mentioned. So considering all of that, actually, it wasn't really all that bad. Here's what it looked like from the inside. Definitely don't do this, but thank you for doing this test. We appreciate your sacrifice very much. At first, I actually thought this is not real, maybe just AI because it just looks so cool. But actually this is very real and they are going to release a full YouTube video, so I'm looking forward to this one. Tesla has released one new color, sorry, it's actually 3, but you know, I was just looking here and I only saw one color, but turns out one is a rose gold color and a gray color. Why would anyone want a gray wrap for a Cybertruck? I can sort of understand this one if you look up close. Yeah, it does look different. So if you're really particular about your style, and if your dictionary contains words like teal, turquoise, and aqua, you will love the rose gold, but I still don't get this one. Here's the gray Cybertruck wrap in action. Ashley has no wrap. This is Kim Kardashian posting her Cybertruck photo to her 364 million Instagram following with a caption, "Cool carpool mom," which is good advertising for Tesla, of course. This free publicity is certainly welcome. And more Foundation Series Cybertruck invite emails are going out right now. It says your limited edition Foundation Series is ready for order. Even Omar pointed out it's so limited they have sent out 40 rounds of invites. Okay, this is not the best news that we could have hoped for. Tesla in Germany is having a bit of an issue. Locals voted against factory expansion plans. However, there's one big caveat. Even though there were almost 3,500 votes against and only 1,880 votes in favor, which was equal to around 70% in terms of a turnout rate. Because Tesla's factory is not actually located in Berlin, it's just outside of Berlin in a small town, is why the number of people voting is not in hundreds of thousands. But this vote is actually a non-binding public survey that was conducted by local authorities. Tesla is planning to build a rail freight depot and storage facilities and on-site kindergarten for employees' children. It argues this will reduce burdens on other freight rail facilities and also allow it to recruit more. The extra warehouse space would also improve supply security. Recently, the facility was forced to pause production as a result of shipping disruptions in the Red Sea. But to accomplish all of that, roughly 250 acres of forests in the rural community of fewer than 8,000 residents near a nature conservation area would need to be removed. However, the regional minister seems to be rather supportive of Tesla, but he says that Tesla's plans need to be fine-tuned first. So a few important things to keep in mind is, number one, the vote was for the acquisition of additional land, and the additional land was mostly for a logistics hub and not for additional manufacturing, so Tesla production expansion is not affected by the vote. Even though the vote is not legally binding, several officials before the outcome of the vote was known said they would vote in line with the results of the vote. Also, the community was somewhat concerned about water, but Rohan from Tesla says the zoning changes have nothing to do with water. There's no need for additional water for any potential expansion at the site. Giga Berlin is one of the most water-efficient vehicle factories on Earth, with the ability to recycle 100% of processed water. It's also not widely known, but in the direct vicinity, our team, Tesla, has worked with local environmental organizations to ecologically uplift 340 hectares of hardwood forests, making them more diverse and resilient, in addition to the afforestation of more than 300 hectares of new forests. I like these comments from the Tesla team directly. Anyway, Tesla does not seem to have been very welcome in Germany, and there's always some pushback and there are always issues. I would generally expect that to continue. But despite all of these efforts against Tesla, Tesla is successfully producing Model Ys in Germany. So it doesn't mean that this is actually a really big issue for Tesla. It's certainly an issue, but I don't think it's really that bad. Whatever issues Tesla will have in Berlin, I'm pretty sure Tesla will overcome all of them. Here's the model mix of Tesla's deliveries in China for the last week. You can see that the ratio is pretty much the same as before. We got a really cool clip from Arthur X about FSD Beta 12. FSD is on, by the way. You can see the blue circle.
Okay, here's the alley again. Wow, look at that. All right, so
to save you some time, here's a summary of what happened. He set the destination to a random alley in downtown Sacramento, which is in California. The car pulls into the alley, driving slow. Based on his previous experiences, he says earlier in the drive, it appears to be looking for a spot. Seems like it couldn't find one it could fit into. Instead of stopping in the middle of the roadway, how V11 would have performed, the car rerouted itself around the block and back into the alley. When it gets back into the alley, it immediately parks into a parking stall instead of proceeding all the way to the destination. This is exactly what I would have done if I was driving. After seeing there was no parking spots the first time, I would have driven around the block and parked in the first available spot I could find. I now believe that actually smart summon is certainly possible with V12, because basically that's exactly what just happened there.
All right, check that out. From the airport to the curb.
and it's not in a no parking.
Yeah. 0 interventions from the airport to your hotel in San Francisco.
This was yet another 20-minute drive. FSD 12, 0 interventions. This just seems to be too common now. It's like, oh yeah, we've seen that, and yet many people are not really understanding what's happening. Maybe it's no big deal to see one drive like this. Okay, yeah, but we have been seeing so many now. Of course, it's California and Tesla has more data there, which means when Tesla gets more data from other places, these other places will also work just as well as this one. And the better it works, the more data Tesla will get faster because more people will be using it more often. And Omar basically says that all other versions were trash, and it's good we're finally admitting. Omar says yes to that. By the way, if you have been a subscriber from day one, the first videos that I reviewed from Omar had like a major intervention once every 1 minute. Often, not always, but often. And these interventions, I mean, some of them were a little scary. You are not seeing that at all anymore. Certainly, there's no intervention once every minute anymore. I cannot wait to have FSD V12 here in Canada. I don't have very high expectations though, because I assume it works much better in California, but it will be really good to see if it can actually really, for real, park, which seems to be the case. I am really excited. Gary Black just gave his more detailed Tesla stock expectations at $194 and Tesla trading at 63 times 2024 earnings per share. We expect Tesla stock to trade in its recent 180 to 210 range until investors see evidence that auto gross margins have bottomed and the destructive price cuts of 2023 won't repeat. But you could have other things happen too, like FSD V12 getting another point release, and all of a sudden someone does a 10-hour drive without any interventions, and then other people replicate that. Do you think that would not move the stock price at all if you saw 30 people replicating that? Gary says, we don't see a ton of value yet from Robotaxi or Optimus, upon which many investors' sky-high price targets are based. We see the fully ramped Cybertruck and $25,000 next-generation vehicle as significant value contributors. Finally, we expect Elon Musk to learn from last year's mistakes and adopt a longer-term view about how to grow volume with less dependence on price cuts and greater focus on education and communications that convince ICE owners to convert to EVs. And there's a bit of a disagreement between Alexandra and Gary. Gary says that FSD needs to drive 99.9% of the time for Wall Street to attach any significant value to FSD, which would be, imagine driving for 99 minutes and then 54 seconds without intervention. So if you have an hour, 40-minute drive, only about 6 seconds during that drive you are not driving with FSD. That's the kind of performance that Gary wants to see before adding significant value to Tesla's valuation, specifically attached to FSD. Currently, when Tesla cuts prices, everyone just drops their earnings per share estimates, but they do not change their volume projections. Tesla has released a brand new tire repair kit on its online shop today, more than 2 years after they first said it would be releasing a new version. Oh, if you are looking to pick up a used Tesla, you can now get a Plaid for $60,000. This one has 51,000 miles. So if you want to experience a roller coaster ride every single day, you might be able to do it now on a budget. The sympathy strikes against Tesla in Sweden have just expanded. The Swedish Union for Service and Communications Employees, SECO, announced Wednesday it will block all work related to planning, constructing, and connecting Tesla charging stations in Sweden starting March 4th. So basically, Tesla will have an extremely difficult time when it comes to opening or installing any new superchargers. Seems like existing superchargers are not really affected, but if they break down, fixing them will be a major problem. So this does limit Tesla's expansion, at least somewhat certainly. Could Tesla just fly out electricians from outside Sweden? I mean, German electricians? Would that be possible? Anyway, when I first saw the news, I saw something like this, that Tesla's charging stations will not be connected to the electricity grid, which would make it irrelevant where your workers are from. But it seems like that's not really the issue. It's just the people that install the superchargers and connect them to the grid. It's those people that would stop working basically. But if Tesla can fly in professionals from overseas, and as long as electricity is still connected or can be connected to the superchargers, then I don't see this as a major issue. It's certainly a bump in the road of further electrifying Sweden's fleet. But as long as the electricity flow is not turned off, then I don't see this as a major setback. There's a little bit of good news. Elon Musk now has some guidelines for moving Tesla's incorporation to Texas from Delaware, thanks to a Tuesday decision in a lawsuit finding that TripAdvisor can reincorporate in Nevada. There could be an exit tax that would have to be paid, perhaps. This is a bit embarrassing for Yahoo Finance, and Elon replied to this as well. The media continues to misreport that Elon's ownership has increased to 20.5%. Elon owns the same amount of Tesla as he did in early 2023. There have been no ownership stake changes between his 13G filing in 2023 and his 13G filing in 2024. California suspends Waymo's application to expand to parts of LA and San Francisco's peninsula. Keep in mind, this is Waymo and not Cruise. Cruise went through quite a blunder late last year when someone got hurt, and then they didn't really disclose all the details about it. And Waymo is actually paying for that, I guess, even though that accident had nothing to do with Waymo. Tesla's enemy was just on TV.
You own Teslas, do you not?
I have cars?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've driven nothing but a Tesla for 13 years.
And have you ever had an issue? I'm going to say no, because I never have once.
Well, I don't have full self-driving on any of my cars. Oh, I do on.
Okay, and as we end, I just got to ask you this. You spent about.
I don't have FSD on any of my cars. Oh wait, I do actually. That was pretty silly. I do agree with Ray. It's odd for Dan to say he doesn't have FSD when the question is about whether he has any issues with Teslas he owns, and then immediately admits he does have FSD for his Model 3. That Tesla killer Chinese automaker that is ceasing operations sold about 8,000 vehicles in 2023, and Lucid in comparison sold 6,001 vehicles in 2023. So yeah, when do you think Lucid is going to be finished? When will the Saudis say enough is enough? Lucid's earnings are about to come out. I'm going to review these briefly tomorrow. Tesla just sent out a new email. Our newest Model 3 comes equipped with a new blind spot indicator light. I actually forgot to test it when I was test driving the Model 3. I didn't. Yeah, I changed my lanes a few times, and there was a vehicle one time in my blind spot. Maybe that feature was turned off. I know you can turn it off. And I like this part. The red light will appear solid, blinking or blinking rapidly, depending on how close your Model 3 is to the object in question. Even though Gary criticizes Tesla quite a bit, he says, I see too much value in Tesla stock at $194. His Tesla stock price target is $290. So he's not selling here, even though many retail investors are telling him to sell every single day, but he's not selling. Gary says, my wife and I used to get death threats at our home from investors tired of seeing Philip Morris stock go down every day as it lost market share. This is from decades ago. Finally, Philip Morris cut the price by 20% and the stock dropped 26% in a single day. And I went from being an annoying rookie analyst to the top-rated tobacco analyst on the street overnight. A year later, Philip Morris stock had recovered all it had lost and restored pricing discipline in the industry. I didn't know Gary had such crazy stories. Stephen Mark Ryan started a poll. How low will Tesla stock go in 2024? Well, I would like a big buying opportunity, so I would hope for about $100. I would be really surprised if it went under $100, but many people think that it has already bottomed. Keep in mind, I think Stephen Mark Ryan is mostly followed just by bulls. In other words, to me, this would suggest if it drops below $150, a lot of bulls will probably find ways to buy more Tesla stock, whether that means sell their other stock positions, or maybe even get a mortgage or sell their real estate, things like that. I remember Jason, when the stock went down to $100 or somewhere around there, maybe he bought it a little bit over 100, but I remember him saying that he used some form of leverage to buy more Tesla stock, but he later closed his leverage positions when Tesla stock recovered to 160 or 170 or 180 or somewhere around that level. So I think we would see a lot of people doing things like that if Tesla stock dropped a lot. Dylan doesn't share his opinions every single day about Tesla stock, but this one is a pretty strong opinion. Dylan says, "This is laughable to me. Can someone explain to me which companies are a better way to gain exposure to the AI theme than Tesla stock? Seriously though, other than Nvidia and Meta, what would they even argue? More importantly, to the 54% of people who said no, Tesla is not a good way to get exposure to AI." That's just basically a response. It's just a laugh. "Respectfully, do your homework, say this, and come find me in 2027. I know people don't know much of anything about Tesla AI, but the information is plastered all over the internet if someone really wanted it." This is in response to Morgan Stanley's survey, which I covered yesterday. And I think Omar has a fair point here. Tesla stock is the most undervalued AI play. And the argument he makes for that is that Tesla stock is trading at less than 50% of the all-time high. The market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent, but eventually it always wakes up, he says. All other AI names are pretty much at all-time highs. And that's it for today's video. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in tomorrow's episode. Thank you so much for watching.